Thanks for tuning into Heavy, where we bring you the latest interviews with local, national, and international artists. Today's victim is...
What's up, everybody? My name is Damon. I sing and I play guitar in Of Virtue. And getting ready to talk about, we just had a new EP come out called Sinner via A Rising Empire Records.
Beautiful. Damon, thanks for joining us today, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
My pleasure. So as you mentioned, Of Virtue recently released your EP, Sinner. So how has the early reception been for it?
Oh, it's been absolutely incredible, man. Like, to be honest, I don't want to say we didn't expect the reaction, but it's, we hadn't put out, some original music in a long time. And with Sinner, the title track being the first thing that people hear back, it's such a departure from our old sound. It's not as heavy. It's a little more on the atmospheric side, a lot more pop and R&B sensibilities. Sometimes you wonder I wonder how people are going to, take this, if they're just going to slander us on the internet and just talk a whole bunch of shit. But it's been further from the truth. Like, everyone's loved it. They've loved the change in direction. It's, relieving for us, because it's like now we can really start to show everybody who we are, the message that we're trying to put out there, and in a sense kind of get back to being true artists. We just kind of create to create, and then you put it into the world and let it do what it's going to do, man.
Yeah, cool. So because EP only contains the 4 tracks, mate, so we'll go through each of them individually and tell us what you're going for musically with that song and what it's about. So we'll start with Hypocrite.
So Hypocrite kind of has the song, what the name implies. This was written, again, we're in the middle of the pandemic. We had a lot of lockdowns, everybody around the world. But the one thing that we noticed was there's a lot of finger pointing on the internet. There's, difference in politics, difference in how, the situation should be handled. And then if we could look across in more of a world scope, it's this same problem is happening everywhere. It's the world kind of feels like it's screeching to a halt, but no one actually has the solutions. And we wanted something to embody that. We wanted something that was pissed. We wanted something that was fast. Our producer, Evan, who helped us work on Sinner, we just kind of went there. We're like, hey, whatever we did with that song, we want to do the exact opposite. We want to have something that when we get back to playing shows, when, you play festivals, you can look out, and sometimes it's easy as just seeing just a circle pit. You're like, hey, I want to see you guys going crazy. So, spiritually with that song, we wanted something heavy. We wanted that piss and vinegar. But as far as the subject matter, we wanted something where it's that was what the song was written about and during the time. But you could also take it in a personal sense of, there's something that all of us, we have to kind of come to grips with, where it's we may say one thing, but do we actually follow what we say? Or are we simply just putting out rhetoric into the world, hoping that things will change without us ever actually changing?
Oh, cool. And how about Sinner?
Sinner, this one cuts a little deep. So This one touches, for me, this was something during this process that I'm thankful for our guys that they let me do. I used to be an alcoholic, or I can even say I'm always going to be on the road to recovery when it comes to drinking. I've been sober since 2007. So knock on, that I'm still here, still alive, talking to you. If I had kept drinking, kept doing drugs in that same sense, it's I would have either been dead, in jail, hurt somebody else seriously. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So Sinner really addresses this, where you're taking control of your life. You're telling this substance that you hold in such high regard, no more, none of this. But then another part that I really wanted to touch base on, that I've been talking to people before, is no one talks about the road to recovery. When the substance is out of the picture, there's still, the physical stuff goes away and everything else, but it's still here. You still have coping mechanisms and qualities where it's you have to deal with now, okay, so what do I do in place of this? A lot of people can replace these things with bad habits. They can replace it with stuff that's equally as damaging, or if not worse, because you think, oh, well, it's not this other thing that was destroying my life. But now you're basically putting yourself into the same position. So it's being cognizant of the fact of healing yourself physically, getting all those relationships and anything else that you may have damaged along the way, but also recognizing and looking at yourself going, it's never truly over. You never stop learning. You never stop trying to figure out ways to fix yourself in a positive way. And with Sinner, again, during this time that, you hear about it all the time, people are locked up in their houses, everything else, and they're just drinking a ton and they're depressed and all this. It's like, no, get out, go see some sunshine, take a bike ride, call your friends, check in on your family, check in on people that you think, they're like, oh no, that person's fine. It's like, no, that person might not be fine. And it's just a matter of like touching really strongly in that of, just taking that control back and then applying it moving forward.
Yeah, cool. And how about Cold Blooded?
This is probably the coolest song lyrically that we've done. No, it's awesome because, so fun fact, when we went to go, so these three, the first three that you mentioned, Hypocrite, Sinner, and Cold Blooded, were all produced by our friend Evan. So it's like we had a nice thing going. We would go to the studio, nothing in hand. We would just sit there. We would talk about the politics in the world, ourselves, socially. We'd open up a little bit more. And in this one, musically, what's kind of cool is I'm a old school wrestling like nerd junkie.
Yeah.
I love it. WCW, ECW, WWF, New Japan Wrestling, even some AEW stuff now. And it was like, how cool would it be to like envision coming out to your own theme music in a way?
Yep.
So it was one of those things. You can picture when it comes in with the just big fire and pyro. You want to make it as bombastic as possible. So as we were making it, it's like, okay, well, we need something cool lyrically. And this was a thing where it's like, let's write from a different perspective. Let's not have it be from myself or Tyler, where it's like, what you would normally get from us. So in this case, this would be the brother or sister song to Sinner, where that song is talking about, myself or, whoever listens to it. You can put yourself in that position with what you're struggling with. Cold Blooded is from the point of the actual vice itself. Okay. This is this thing. This is this monster that is talking to you, basically saying, you can't defeat me. I am omnipotent. You can try your best. It's like, I'm the thing that loves you. I'm the thing that gives you the support and gets you through your day. So how dare you challenge me? Wow. And it's like, it's this kind of like world beating, just omnipotent godly force that we believe that this thing is in the time. When we're brainwashed by that substance, when we're under the influence of that, we as people believe that. And this could be, drugs. It could be, what do you call it? Like bad influences or people, toxic people that are in your life. It could be a job. It could be anything else, but it's just this thing that you buy into it and you believe it, but it's telling you, it's like, hey, no matter what you do, I'm undefeated. You're going to break before I do. And even if you get away from me, guess what? I'm just going to go find something else. I'm the parasite. I'm the virus. I'm the one that's going to survive.
That's wicked. And the final song on the EP is Echoes.
Yes. And this one is a very personal song as well, because going back to the theme of addiction and we're talking about the road to recovery, one of the first steps is learning how to live in your own mind, being able to be comfortable in your thoughts, being able to sort through those thoughts. And sometimes it's hard because, whether you have depression, if you have anxiety, if you just overthink things way too much, it can put you in a place where you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. So then you turn to drugs, you turn to pills, you turn to food or whatever the case may be. But this song is more of the sense of, not in the modern sense, we use social media. We use that as a tool of like, when we post a status or we post a picture or an update or anything else, part of it is for ourselves, but part of it is also we're looking to connect with other people around the world. Like the fact now that you and I are sitting here, you're on the complete opposite side of the world, but we're connecting with this common bond, this common thing. This is what I live for. This is what you live for, where it's like, we had this chance. If it wasn't for the music, if it wasn't for this, who knows if our paths would have ever crossed.
Very true.
So Echoes is just, it's from like Tyler's the only singer on the song to really drive home that message of like, you have to learn how to roll through life. You have to learn how to deal with your emotions. You learn how to accept that sometimes being alone is by yourself, but I'm also going to put out these feelers of things that I want in my life. I want to put out the things that I want to enrich me. So in that case, it's like, it's a message. It's a, you know, an SOS to the rest of the world to be like, if you feel like me, if you've been in the same position as me, if you haven't been, or you're about to be, it's like, I'm here for you. And I hope that somebody is out there for me too.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So thanks for that, mate. That's very that was informative. Very well done. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
So, Ben's statement says that the says of the EP that you're able to dig deeper and go to darker places than ever before. So, what is it about this part of your career now where you can actually go into those things?
I think a lot of time it was just, again, us having to take a back seat. Like, we had been on the road for basically 4 years straight, put out records. We've been touring all over the place. And sometimes you just get, you know, caught up in the hustle of just trying to keep the machine going, keep the band going. Not that we didn't mean what we say before, but in this case, it's like, there's always things that are unsaid where it's like, hey, let's talk about the fact that I'm sober. That's not a fact or a thing that most of the world knew. You know, Tyler, he struggles with, you know, anxiety to a degree and some levels of depression, but it's not something that he ever really wanted to, you know, acknowledge, because sometimes you almost feel weak when you do. But kind of like what I was saying with Echoes, it was a sense of like, no, we found each other because we kind of feel the same way and we want to help enrich each other. So if we want to get the most out of our platform, you know, we're thankful that we do have one.
Yeah.
It's, you have to be as open and honest with your audience as possible. And sometimes that means any secrets or stuff that, you know, we may hide from the world. It's like, we can't hide it anymore. We have to let people know, like, hey, no, this is who we are truly. This is the real us. There's some stories that we feel uncomfortable, but it's finding comfort in that uncomfortableness, letting people come to us and say, hey, I've done this. I've felt the same way. I'm going through this right now. And just to know, again, that other people feel the same way. It sounds so simple, but that's kind of the hard part too. It's just getting over that barrier of being vulnerable in fear of, you know, being judged or being mislabeled or being an outcast, because that's what the regular world does to us. That's what, you know, people that aren't in this scene or in, you know, rock and metal, it's like they just don't understand sometimes. And we use that against us. We use that against us when we say, oh, okay, we are special. We are a part of this thing that not everybody can come to grow and love and understand. But we can't let that limit us when it comes to trying to connect with the people in that same world. You know, we still are damaged. We still have our own stories and issues. But again, like I said, everybody has their own story and background. And we want to find out as much as we can, not only about ourselves, but about everybody else. So that when we show up and we play, hey, when we come to Australia and it's like, Chris, I want to sit down and, you know, we can sit there and I can have a water. We can do whatever. We can just talk and just get to know each other on a deeper and more personal level, and do that again. Go to Europe, go to South America, go to, you know, do it here in the States. Like that's what it's truly about. And being able to finally get to that point, it took maybe, you know, it did take maybe the past couple of years of just not being able to see people and having people say, hey, look, you guys have more to say. And sometimes you just need that push. You need that friendly, like, come on, get it out there. Exactly. So
they're very cool. And we sort of touched on this before, mate, but the sound of the band has changed over the years from a more metalcore based sound to the sort of more hard rock alternative, like say a bit of pop R&B influences you've got now. So was that a transitional period slowly for you guys, or was it a natural thing? Did you plan on doing that?
No, we didn't plan. Like originally, like I said, coming out of